like to request the AIDMI team to perhaps start this meeting and then, discuss what we can do about our knowledge repository that we have created. So I request the AIDMI team to share their screen and move forward. Hi, I don't think you're audible. Can we?
Would you please speak up a little bit?
Yes. Am I audible?
A little louder, please, if possible.
Yeah. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So at AIDMI, we try to create a knowledge repository, which is the presentation you saw. It's the SouthAsianDisasters.net. That is a magazine that we try to create where we try to collate all the local knowledge repository, and it has articles from experts in the field. I would first like to request Mr. Tahir, who is a leading disaster and coastal management expert from Bangladesh, to give us an introduction on the same.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone from Dhaka. I have a few slides to come in. If you can share.
Just I share.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, good afternoon. Am I visible to the participants?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay then. Salam and namaskar to everyone. This is a beautiful, bright afternoon in Dhaka. I'm Mohammed Tahir. Uh, I am an independent research and evaluation consultant. I'm associated with Duryog Nivaran as a member of steering committee of Duryog Nivaran, which is South Asian network. And I have been deeply involved with Dr. Mihir Bhatt and AIDMI for a long time. We have worked together in many different occasions. So I have, as an introduction, I would like to, first of all, welcome you on board. It is this auspicious occasion of launching the South Asia Disaster Net, Volume 20, Issue 4. And to start my introduction, we have in the newsletter itself, there is an introduction, but just to share a few words before other honorable panel members make their presentations. So you know that the headline for this webinar or this launch meeting has been coastal disaster with a focus on the extreme heat perspective from South Asia. Now, I'd like to explain why we would like to have a focus on South Asia, why South Asia is important. It is important because it is a critical climate hotspot due to various reasons. One is that although it is a relatively small region in the globe, but it is home to about a fourth of the global population, and many of them are highly exposed to different climatic risk and disaster risk, not least the rising temperature. According to IPCC, this is one of the fastest growing region in terms of rising temperature, which is an average 1 to 5% centigrade to be reaching about 3 degrees Celsius if the current rate is maintained, which actually indicates a looming danger for the region in future. And it's very closely linked with the other disasters such as increased frequency of cyclones, floods, droughts, and heat waves in the coastal areas. Why important coastal area? Coastal areas because these are inhabited largely by the marginalized communities, and they're facing both rapid and slow onset disaster. Rapid disasters, of course, are like cyclones and rainfall, but also the slow onset disasters like droughts, uh, sea level rise, and waterlogging in some of these in the coastal areas. So this is the characteristics of the South Asian coast. Now, quickly, what you will in a minute when it is downloaded by you, the newsletter, you will see that it has covered a range of complementary, interlinked issues and topics, such as uh, issues related to rural as well as urban vulnerabilities in relation to heat. There are scientific insights as well as social realities. In fact, this issue, as AIDMI always uh, expresses its concern about the community people, vulnerable community people, this has the strong sociological focus. The number of papers presented in this newsletter would have mention about social and economic vulnerability, including how poor women and children are being excessively affected by the rising temperature. There are also economic analysis because the increased heat impacts on the livelihood opportunities of the poorer people. And these papers also covers a number of technological innovations, suggest innovative and adaptive solutions for the for to face to confront the heat disaster. Thanks. I, on behalf of AIDMI, would like to thank you, all the contributors to this issue. We are indeed grateful to all of you who have really taken efforts and engaged yourself in producing thoughtful reports, papers. The issue features about a dozen different articles by eminent scholars from Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka. And each of you are offering very thoughtful analysis across social, economic, and scientific domains. your valuable insights and experience are grounded on regional experience, which are going to be very valuable for all of us. Thanks. Finally, I would like to remind you that there are many information and knowledge base in existence already, but they are underutilized, if not and not shared, not known to everyone really. So therefore, we need collaborative efforts and coordination among the interested and stakeholders across institutions and across different regions. We need to exchange more openly and share our knowledge and experience. In this regard, I would like to remind people that AIDMI's previous issues of disaster, South Asia disaster.net covered many examples and many thoughtful articles on the issue of rising temperature and thoughtful solutions for low-cost cooling, low-cost cooling arrangements in different parts of India and other countries. So these information and knowledge should be more widely disseminated so that people can have benefits from all of these efforts. So we need actually facilitate these exchanges. And today's meeting and the contribution of the panel members, would be one step ahead in this respect. So with these few words, I would like to request the moderator to invite the panel members to make the presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tahir. Often we see that any disaster in South Asia is multi-pronged, and it's a very useful thing to look at the gender aspect of any disaster. So I would first request Ms. Ishrat Shamim, who is the president for the Center for Women and Children Studies from Bangladesh, to give us a perspective on South Asia and especially gender when we look at the coast. Thank you.
Yes. I'm already there.
Yes. Would you like to share your screen?
I've already given the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm not sharing.
Okay, I am sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Not so quickly, one by one. I've got my stop video. Can't be shown. My face cannot be shown.
You're visible, ma'am.
I'm visible.
Yes.
Okay. Still, I'm not visible. Okay.
The audience members can see you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And good afternoon or good evening. I don't know. It's already 4:45. My presentation will be on the impact of extreme heat on women and children living in coastal Bangladesh, agenda for protecting the most vulnerable. Next slide. And we have this climate change has affected South Asia as well as Bangladesh, and we are facing in the coastal districts of Khulna, Shatira, especially in Bagirhat, which is the most vulnerable, and they are facing extreme heat. And for that, the factors which are more affecting such extreme heat is low elevation, high humidity, saline water intrusion, and the poor infrastructure. We have the rising frequency and intensity of heat waves due to climate change. Next slide, please. Why do we focus on women and children? I'm actually the president of Center for Women and Children Studies. We do research on women and children studies. That doesn't mean we do not take a comparative analysis of men also. We do take, but we see that women and children are disproportionately affected in any type of extreme condition, either it is disasters or climate change factors. And entrenched, there are the gender inequalities which worsen the vulnerability. Climate impacts intersect with poverty, health, and social norms, of course. Next slide. Health risks for women are mostly is with pregnant lactating women who have higher risk of heat stress, preterm labor, and miscarriages also. Dehydration and lack of access to maternal health facility we have here in Bangladesh, the coastal belt. And then there is an increased mental and physical stress from caregiving and domestic tasks, because women are giving the major of the domestic tasks, whether it's in extreme heat or whether in normal conditions. Next slide, please. And then we also have considered the health risk for children. Infants and toddlers, they have high risk of dehydration, heat rashes, and heat stroke. They have malnutrition worsen during heat waves. And there's also limited access to cooling like shaded areas or fans. There are hardly fans in their huts or in the villages, in the coastal belts. The more marginalized people are staying there. Okay, the next slide. And there is also the water scarcity and daily hardships. Traditional water sources dry up or turn saline. That's very frequent in the coastal belt, the salinity of water. And women and girls have to walk longer distances in peak heat. The impacts are exhaustion, missing school, especially for girls, and time loss for income generation. They just cannot take the time off because they have to walk long distances for fetching water, and school are also, children are missing school because schools also in the village areas in the coastal belt usually don't have fans or air conditioned or all that. It's very minimum. Next slide. And then there's the menstrual health challenges. Water scarcity affects hygiene practices among women and young girls. It increased the infections also among them. And there are taboo and silence about menstruation, amplify their vulnerability. They cannot tell anyone, they cannot disclose that they are having all sorts of problems. Hygiene practices. Next slide. Unsafe housing is another very important, and the infrastructure. Because tin roof, we have mostly tin roof houses which lack ventilation because becomes heat traps, and electricity shortage with no fans or cooling system. Many of them have electricity, but then there are also shortage or cuts in electricity. And they mostly, very poor families don't have fans or cooling system. And what happens? The elderly, infants, and sick family members face life-threatening conditions during the heat waves. Next. And then there's the impact on education, especially for girls, as well as boys also. But schools with tin roofs become unbearable during heat waves. Absentee of student increases, especially among girls. And learning losses accumulate in high heat months. So there are absentee, and then they hardly have opportunity to learn or accumulate in these heat, high heat months, especially July, August, June, July, August, September, the heat reduces. Yeah. Next slide. Now, what do the community do to cope this type of situation? There are some informal adaptations like changing work hours. So they work during the evening and leave out the afternoon when heat is more strong. And then there are homemade methods like wet cloths or shaded areas under the tree. They take their shelter. But these are not enough in the face of growing climate risk. The heat doesn't, you cannot really escape from the heat. But these are some of the coping mechanisms. Also, there is a tendency to keep a bucket full of water inside the room so that it's sort of cool people's air conditioning mechanism sometimes. If they are not shortage of water, or then they can do that also. And what are the gaps in policy and response? Current responses lack a gender lens.
Sorry,
yeah.
Many participants are facing difficulties hearing you. Maybe if you could go closer to the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
So gaps in policy and responses. Now I think it's okay. Current responses lack a gender lens. They do not take women and girl children into consideration. And women and children excluded from planning and decision-making processes. NGOs as well as government often overlooks localized specific needs. That's another big challenge, because every locality has special needs that the NGOs and government should take into consideration, which are sometimes absent. So there's a big gap in the policy and the response that goes after. If you have a policy, then accordingly, you have a general policy, but the response should be more localized, I think. The next slide, please. What needs to be done? Now, we will urge, first is gender inclusive interventions. For example, heat-resistant housing, accessible maternal and child care health facilities, water infrastructure for hygiene and sanitation, and gender-sensitive early warning system. Yeah, that this will be heat in these communities. Through the community radio, they get some immersive, but it is not announced in loudspeakers, or the early warning system for the heat waves are not usually announced. It's only for extreme disasters. The warning system works like that. And then climate education and awareness for women and youths. That's also to be done. Yeah, the next slide. Now, call for action will be that we have to recognize the unique vulnerability of women and children. And accordingly, we have to integrate gender equity into all climate adaptation policies. And then the last one is empower communities to lead solutions with voice, resources, and dignity. That's my last slide. Thank you very much for your patience hearing.
Thank you so much for putting this in such succinct words and highlighting this issue. Since we have already discussed now the gender lens, it's also important to see how this is related specifically also to our oceans. So I would now request Professor and Dr. Krishnaveni to please enlighten us about how extreme heat and ocean management works and what should we do more. Professor Krishnaveni, please.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. And today I wish to share some of the perspective on marine heat waves. First title. Marine heat waves and how we can go about extreme heat and ocean management and what we must do more. So to start with that, marine heat waves. Next, marine heat waves are the extreme events. It indicates the extreme rise in ocean temperature for an extended period of time, and also it occurs when the sea surface temperature in a particular region rises to 3 to 4 degrees Celsius above the average temperature for at least 5 days. Then we are calling it as marine heat waves. And it occurs it can occur in different locations in the ocean as we seen from the map, and with a different magnitude and frequency. And it exists, that is in 2023, 96% of the ocean experienced extreme heat waves. Also in 2024, climate change added 41 days of dangerous extreme heat globally, and the trend continues in 2025 also. And the marine heat waves, so hence the marine heat waves are increasing in frequency and in severity, thus threatening the ecosystem and coastal community. So prolonged high sea surface temperature causes mass mortality of corals, seagrasses, and commercially valuable fishes. And the large-scale coral bleaching is happening in so many places. Thus, it affects, even it kills the coral reefs. And it increases also the invasive species, as well as it leads to the harmful algae blooms, thereby disturbing the marine system, and also it threatens the food safety. And the heat waves also worsen the oxygen depletion. It actually, ocean provides more than 50% of the oxygen to the entire world. But excessive heat waves reduce the oxygen availability. Also, it aggravates the acidification, thus impairing the marine life health. In, for example, in May 2020, the marine heat wave resulted in bleaching of 80% of corals in Gulf of Mannar near Tamil Nadu coast. Also in Lakshadweep, over a span of 24 years, it reduced more than 50% of coral being depleted, subjected to bleaching, and it has been declined. The availability also declined more than 50%. And in the Western Indian Ocean, rising sea surface temperature contributed to a 20% of decline in phytoplankton, thus affect the food web and thereby fish productivity also. And since the ecosystem is being degraded by the excessive heats, and the services provided them by also is disturbed. For example, the loss of mangroves. Actually, mangroves are they are the carbon sink. It gives you the it do the function of carbon sequestration. So loss of mangroves means the potential of carbon sequestration of ocean is also get reduced. And also they are the coral reef and mangroves, they are acting as a natural protection, coastal protection. It is acting as a natural barrier. When they degraded, that their function also get affected. So already the excessive heats due to that, the chlorophyll and chlorophyll get affected. Because of that, the food web also affected, and in which in turn affects the nutrient cycling also. These are all the disruption to the ecosystem services. And this marine heat waves, actually the sea surface temperature is rising to the degree of 0.08 degrees centigrade per decade since 1901, with acceleration in recent.
साफ करना चाहिए कि कौन अपने मतलब अपने देश की दुश्मनी और कौन अपने मित्र।
So it compounds the intensity as well as frequency. It increases the frequency of tropical cyclone. Also, it disturbs the major weather pattern, causing cloudburst and all. And the changes in ocean temperature in general threaten the global food and water security. And when coming to the economic losses, loss of foundational habits trigger the cascading effect on the local economics and society. And during a major marine heat wave in 2016, Silly aquaculture industries has lost that $800 million directly due to the harmful algal blooms and triggered by elevated sea temperature. And there is an indirect losses due to the prolonged ecosystem degradation, including loss of coral reefs, seagrass meadows, and hemp forests. This will exceed $3.1 billion annually. And regarding the impact on society, apart from that is a marine heat waves causing the loss of life of the people, and apart from that, it disturbs the livelihood of the coastal community who depends on the fishing and marine industries. And the health risks are happening due to the seafood contamination due to the excessive heat, as well as waterborne diseases due to the harmful algal bloom. And communities are more vulnerable as a livelihood disappear, and even migration is also happening. And especially the tourism operator and the auxiliary business in the beaches and in the coastal areas are also get affected, stinking the revenue and layoff. And what we can do, so how to build the ocean resilience? The foremost thing is we have to protect, restore, and expand the vulnerable habitat. Expand the restore the vulnerable habitats. Focus on hemp forest and mangrove seagrass meadows. This habitat acts actually ocean is a good carbon sink, but even then due to the increase in the carbon emissions, its potential also get reduced. And these we have to urgently we have to restore and expand their habitats, and adopt green technology like energy efficient and low emission in maritime transport also, as well as in coastal industries, which can reduce the ocean heat burden and overall carbon footprint. And we have to reduce the plastic pollution as well as chemical entering into the ocean, as well as we have to minimize the runoff pollution and oil spill pollution, so that this will also enhance the ocean resilience. And coming to the community action, there is a need to impart the ocean literacy on marine heat waves among the community. And then we have to engage them in the ocean cleanup as well as in the restoration of marine habitats. And in the day-to-day life also, we have to adopt sustainable lifestyle practices to reduce the carbon emission. And some of the activities we are at IOM, we are also carrying out, like ocean cleanup activity, mangrove plantation, things like that. Yes. So coming to the innovative adaptive solutions, some of the solutions are creating a cool spot. We can pump the cooler water from the deep ocean, and we can make it cool to prevent the coral bleaching, and as well as we can protect it from the heat waves. If feasible, we can install floating and anchored shading structure above the coral reef. And while coming to the urban solution, we can create the coastal island in coastal cities. We can plant the trees. We can adopt the cool roof system and misting system. So all these things, cooling method we should adopt in the nearby coastal area. Thereby we can reduce the urban heat transfer from the land to the marine water environment. So at the Institute of Ocean Management, we are conducting some studies related to marine heat waves. We are in the process of predicting the marine heat waves using the artificial intelligence and remote sensing data. And we are assessing the impact of marine heat waves on ocean productivity in Bay of Bengal. And we are also reviewing the various laws and regulations towards revising the policy option to combat the marine heat waves. And apart from that, we are doing many outreach activity like coastal cleanup, mango restoration, mango training, nursery training to the coastal communities. So to conclude this, extreme heat, ocean heat is a complex one, and it's a growing threat also with wide-ranging consequences. So we need urgent and coordinated effort is required from government, scientists, communities, and individuals. Resilient ocean means resilient coastal society, and community involvement is crucial for sustainable change. And innovative adoption needs to be incorporated to combat the impact of heat waves in future. So, thank you. Thank you for this.
Thank you for that conversation. Now, because of the paucity of time, I would like to now move forward to the next speaker. On behalf of the Maritime Research Center, I would request Ms. Catherine to speak for us. She would be talking on behalf of Professor Das.
Hi, everyone. Good evening to all. Thank you so much for all the previous speakers. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll start my presentation. So today so as ma'am has already explained in detail about the complexities and the science behind the heat waves and what it's doing to the environment, what are its consequences. What my presentation is going to cover is developing a framework which could comprehensively address most of these issues, because we're not looking at just the science part of it. We have the economics, we have the people. So how are we going to bring it all together? So we at Maritime Research Center have developed a methodology, a comprehensive way of looking at these things and address them to make it more resilient, to make it more sustainable. So moving on with my presentation, so I'll be covering a little bit about the tropical characteristics, how it's unique in South Asia, what are the risks of climate change, what is underwater domain awareness framework, and how marine spatial planning can help address these issues, and how are we developing MSP for India and the tropical waters. So starting off, what is the basic challenge that we are facing, which a lot of scholars and policymakers are, today not aware of, is the fact that the sonar performance, which is sonar is used for the communication underwater, and most of our the communication channels for the ships, etc., are dependent on sonar performance. It suffers 60% degradation. So we are at we are using this sonar technology with this particular performance degradation without addressing it. So there's an opportunity now to design ways for the tropical waters using UDA, where we customize the technology to address these challenges of tropical waters. So with this challenge and the opportunity, we see why tropical waters are more unique. As you can see in the first chart, the heat content change in the Indian Ocean has been the most substantial and more alarming than as compared to all the other ocean systems. Both the graphs can actually show you how the Indian Ocean has suffered more heat content changes. Similarly, in the next one, you see the heat content in the upper 700 meters, and it shows a similar trend. And in this chart, you can see what are the drivers, the greenhouse gases, etc., and the impacts, and how the consequences. And these impacts from the Indian Ocean are being transferred to all the other oceans as well, the Atlantic, Pacific, and Southern. The sea surface temperature variations also face a similar trend. particularly in the Indian Ocean as compared to Pacific and Atlantic. Indian Ocean is suffering like 1.2% increase in the past century. Similarly, the sea surface temperature is projected to increase by 1.7 to 3.8 in different emission scenarios. And the dramatic expansion of Indian Ocean warm pool over the past 2 decades is also alarming. I would also like to point to one other recent research which talks about the concurrent coastal disasters. So a heat wave was spoken about by my previous speaker, but heat wave and sea level rise are also intricately tied together. So according to this research, 1 percentile increase in heat wave intensity is associated with 2.07 increase in likelihood of concurrent extremes. So when I say concurrent extremes, it's in the same location, which compounds the event, and the impact is also compounded as compared to the sum of impacts due to individual hazards. Now, these heat waves are long period of hot weather, and which actually are linked to high pressure systems at first. As soon as the heat wave gets over, during or immediately after that, when the low pressure system sets in, especially in the coastal regions, there's a lowering of geopotential height, which destabilizes the atmosphere and leads to higher sea level rise. And this kind of effect and this impact is particularly alarming the tropical coastlines. And as the moderator mentioned at the very beginning, we have like an immense coastline, immense EEZ. And when we are faced with such vulnerabilities, it's something that we cannot ignore. And such concurrent coastal disasters are also something that the frequency of such events are also increasing as we go as the years go by. So now, why climate change management? As I mentioned, the tropical waters are particularly vulnerable to concurrent disasters, and it is also home to productive fishing grounds, mangroves and seagrasses, which play an important role in carbon sequestration, nutrient cycling, and providing habitats is also available in as compared to other systems in more quantity. And the tropical oceans also influence the global weather patterns and climate regulation. So how are we? So if you were to like divide the different aspects of climate change risk, we can look at it from 3 aspects, parameters: people, economy, and nature. How the communities are going to get affected, how the traditional practices are going to get affected. For example, we had this recent field visit from our institute, and we found that earlier the fishers and farmers, the fishermen used to use stars for navigation and various other indigenous methods for finding where the fish hotspots are, fishing, the stock density is going to be good. So very intuitive in nature. But as and when the climate change impacts started to kick in, their own intuitive and feelings, they weren't able to get the kind of productivity that they were looking for, and they started to rely on technology, government aid, and government support in assessing all of that. And of course, there's going because of various other emerging technologies, emerging industries, the conflicts and competitions have also increased. So people at the center are getting impacted, and as one of my previous speakers mentioned, women fisher folk are definitely going to be impacted the most. And since there's a lot of seasonality in these coastal industries, there's a lot of complexities associated with it. And then talking about the economy, I already mentioned the fisheries, aquaculture, etc. Even now, the seaweed industry is trying to prop up so that fishermen can get some kind of additional income, and some kind of skilling can be involved, and some resilience against various disasters, coastal disasters. So, and the cost of resilient infrastructure, if we were to design some kind of engineering systems to provide resilience, what are the costs associated, and what are the drawbacks? What are the externalities associated with such systems? Are also something that is involved. And the nature, the extreme weather events already talked about, how the blue economy, which involves all the industries, harnessing of all the resources of the oceans and all the other systems, how to make them sustainable so that the impact on our underwater systems is minimized. And of course, we have to make sure that the ecosystem devastation is not is also minimal, or at least understood what is the effect of what we are doing. And such studies are, of course, at the moment lacking. And so this is kind of looking at the overall picture. So now with the underwater domain awareness actually looks at these four major stakeholders. From the marine and riverine perspective. So we have the maritime security, we have blue economy, we have environmental regulators and disaster management, and science and technology. I'll just briefly go through these stakeholders one by one. So in security, we are looking at not just the coastal way security, but also the river systems. As all of you must be aware of, we have the Sagarmala project, which tries to connect the, increase the connectivity, interconnectedness of the ocean and the rivers, minimizing transportation costs, increasing the economic benefits, etc. So it's not just for the economic benefits, but also to make be used for security purposes, because our riverine coastal system has a more expansive view, but riverine system has a more geographical complexity, and it is more it has more proximity to civilian populations and limited surveillance infrastructure. So looking at it in an integrated fashion, the coastal and the riverine systems will provide us a more holistic view of the security issues, because 9/11, 26/11, all these events had an ocean component also. And these vulnerabilities are something that we have to take into account. So when we talk about ocean disasters, security becomes an important component of that. And then we have the blue economy. I've covered this a little bit previously also, but here we are going to be talking about the economic benefits, the oil and gas, fisheries, minerals, renewable energy, marine biotechnology. So all of that, harnessing all of that is also at the center of our, when we are looking at the oceans, because we have, so if you look at the global trend, the terrestrial resources are being utilized to a huge extent. And there's an increased focus in the European Union and globally also on harnessing the resources from the oceans. So that we can keep up with the demand of the growing population, growing lifestyle changes, improving lifestyle changes. So blue economy is at the forefront of our the economic frontier itself. And when we start harnessing, of course, there's going to be questions regarding marine environment and how are we going to manage the disasters. So the impact on marine environment is not just due to the externalities of these industries directly, but also through climate change, which it's a more indirect way of impacting the oceans. And the pollution, the habitat assessment. So we have to actually understand what is underwater before we have a scalable approach to implementing anything on the ocean. And of course, the population bulge, the coastal population is also a huge number. And how is that going to affect, and how is that going to impact the environment, and how the pollution in the environment going to impact these populations as well. So there's a lot of aspects to be covered here as well. And the last stakeholder is the science and technology. So all the latest way of dealing with things, AI, ML, Internet of Things, how are we going to implement all of that and make sure that we understand the science, the biology, chemistry, and physics of the science of the oceans properly, so that the technology that we have right now in terms of not just having an exploratory approach, because we have a huge exclusive economic zone, deploying resources is going to be very expensive. It's going to take a lot of resources, manpower, etc. So instead, how can we use these new innovative technologies to minimize our workload, but at the same time get accurate and efficient results? So this is where science and technology integrating it into our framework can help address these issues more effectively. So I would like to now give, I hope I'm not running short of time, um, uh, give the UDA perspective on these coastal disasters. So underwater domain awareness is something that Maritime Research Center has proudly been proposing and trying to integrate into a lot of our ocean-based conversations. So I would like to just summarize it. So one is the coastal infrastructure. So largely what we look at is the infrastructure on the surface, which is visible. But there's a, sorry? Yeah. But there is growing infrastructure. I mean, which was not a part of conversation before, but now we have the pipelines, underwater cables, port foundations, and rigid channels, which are like in the subsurface, invisible to the conventional impact assessments. And the impact of the ocean disasters, sea level rise or hurricanes, are going to get first affect them before it is invisible on land in any form. And then underwater acoustics. These disasters also increase the underwater noise level, which is not visible to our eyes, of course, but these disrupt marine mammal communication, fish migration, benthic habitats, etc., particularly in already stressed coastal zones. And the interaction between sea level rise and underwater. So when I say sea level rise here, the heat wave and sea level rise, all of them are kind of like the faces of the two faces of the same coin. So pardon me here, but interaction between sea level rise and underwater geomorphology is also not understood, because there's an uncertainty in projections. Monitoring the bathymetric changes, which is a part of underwater domain awareness, will help make sure that the influence of wave propagation, erosion patterns, and sedimentation cycle on these coastal disasters is understood properly, which is often neglected. And the coastal defense failures are also linked to subsea factors. So investigating around, when these these terrorism and security aspects, where the scouring around foundations, weakening underwater levees and breakwaters, and also the saline saltwater intrusion. So these are all linked to various defense failures, and we undermine the and when we do not take these factors into consideration, we kind of undermine the resilience strategies. So how are we, so underwater domain awareness proposes that we take up a modeling and simulation approach, an integrated one where not just macroeconomic and engineering parameters are considered, but other underwater parameters, the seabed composition, biochemical parameters, subsurface pressure variations, temperature variations, hydroacoustic profiles, all of that is integrated, and a multidimensional modeling is proposed where both the surface and underwater domains are understood properly for better predicting the cascading coastal disaster impacts. So to summarize the gaps, we have a gap in integration of the underwater data in climate change models so that we can arrive at a system level understanding. And we also have the coastal disaster risk assessment should include the subsurface vulnerabilities and the use of UDA tools to enhance situational awareness and predictive capabilities. So what are these UDA tools? So before coming to that, I would like to just summarize the UDA framework. So as I had already mentioned, the major stakeholders here are the blue economy, sustainability and climate change, strategic security and digital transformation. So these are the major stakeholders that we're dealing with. And so based on the requirements of these stakeholders, we develop mechanisms to shortlist the parameters that needs to be monitored. And even without monitoring the whole of the area, if we can get a modeling and simulation perspective, and then validate it in a certain area, we have to make sure that we have enough data to start off with. That is the sensing part, and then we analyze it, and then we create a model, a system, so that could govern, that could dictate the regulation, help the policy makers make informed decisions, and which is not just a one-time thing, but a more cyclic process where with the real-time data or with the availability of real-time analysis, we arrive at a more up-to-date policy framework. And to make sure that we enable the whole system, capacity and capability building is required. Acoustic capacity is at the center, but we need the capability and capacity in various other fields as well. Coastal management, even your AI, ML, and then deployment, and you have domain specialists, and integrating the gender perspectives, integrating the liberal arts perspectives, other areas, making sure that all the perspectives are made sure. So we have, and also we need a human resource, because this is a more of a developing scenario, developing industries, an area where we haven't yet given that much of debate, and the narration is still at a nascent stage. We have a lot of hackathons also being organized to make sure that the startups get interested in developing solutions to the problems related to coastal disasters. So all of this is developing an ecosystem, building an ecosystem for making sure that the capacity and capability is there to make sure we implement and execute the plan properly. So this is an example of marine spatial planning. We have developed it. Sorry?
I would request you to summarize maybe your findings in a more succinct way, because we might be running out of time.
I'm sorry, just 2 more slides. So this is the marine spatial planning that I have been talking about. So here, the integrated approach of the modeling and simulation, where different parameters are put together and the policymakers have this handy where they can make informed decisions. So the red zones are areas where the noise levels are huge. So the shipping lanes can be diverted, or various other technological innovations can be adapted. So if you can see on the left-hand side, you can see the various parameters that we are at the moment looking at. This could be developed further. We already have it in real time. I'll finish it. I mean, this was on behalf of Dr. Arnab Das. So as he says, the task at hand is huge, and we are like very tiny group of people. So thank you for coming together, and thank you for giving this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that presentation and so much information. I would like to now open the floor for discussion. We already have a few questions that I would like to address. I would start by addressing what we mean by early warning system. So I would request Professor Shamim to maybe shed light on how early warning systems can be inclusive to women, and what changes should we make to our current early warning systems to include more women, or more social groups in them.
Answer. Madam. Audio open.
Or perhaps anybody else could answer this question.
Early warning system for I can just give like our perspective. So as I mentioned in the end of our presentation, how we are developing the marine spatial planning tool for making sure that we have the data. This is not just for the policymakers; it's also something that we are trying to take it to the communities. So when we today we have apps and various tools where fisher folks can access this. So of course, capacity building is important, and when women folk are also, of course, given the importance, and these apps and are available to them, they can view the productivity. So we have this APY tool, area production yield. So based on the few parameters that they can input into the system, they can kind of decide what kind of productivity that they are going to get. So we are also trying to integrate another system to give a more economic analysis, because I said it's a seasonal thing. So what are the different alternatives available apart from seaweed cultivation, fisheries, etc., that they can include in their, the whole year's calendar, so that their productivity is optimized or, increased. So that is a way in which digital transformation, in which technology has opened avenues for making, even the gender roles and the gender gaps can be reduced somehow. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I also want to talk about how we could include informal ways, not just policy changes, but informal community aspects to actually deal with coastal issues. So perhaps if Professor Krishnaveni or Mr. Tahir could share their observations on informal things that communities can build on, and move forward from there.
Some outreach activities and all. We are going when the cyclone is occurring, we are meeting the people and we are asking them how they are coping up and what are the impacts on their livelihood, how they are coping up. Like that, we used to do the structured questionnaire survey, and based on that, we are revising in the process of revising policy. And similarly, in the marine heat waves also, it is affecting the efficiency of the coastal community, as well as with the reduction of habitats, and then this chlorophyll and all, no, it affects the ocean productivity, which in turn affects the coastal community livelihood. And we are in the process of assessing the social and economic impact losses to the coastal community. We are in the process. We are now started assessing. Previous to that, for early warning system, first of all, we have to do the prediction. For that, what we are doing, we are taking the time series data of remote sensing data, and with the help of deep learning AI technologies, we are first assessing the trend, and then we are doing the prediction. And in the context of climate change also, we are in the process of projecting the heat waves, how it will be in the mid-century, end century. So both the prediction as well as projection, we are started doing, and we are also in the process of assessing the impacts on the coastal community. And then regularly we are doing the outreach activity with the funds from the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change for doing the this outreach activity. We are celebrating by celebrating the various environmental days like seaweed grass, and then World Environment Day and Seagrass Day and World Turtle Day. Like that, we are creating posters, videos like dugong, the marine mammals like dugong, how they get affected. For that, we are creating videos and then posters, and then we are uploading it into the web portal also. Thereby, we are increasing the literacy of the people about the coastal disaster, including the marine heat waves also. Recently, we have taken an intern student fund that is supported by Ministry of Environment and Forest, and we are asking her, she is a law student, we are asking her to revive all the laws and the regulation and convention related to marine heat waves, and then at the meantime we have to analyze the impacts on the coastal community, and based by linking these two, science and policy, and then impacts, we have to revise the policy for that, and then we have to make increase the ocean literacy, especially with respect to the cyclone disaster and then marine heat waves, and then how best they can cope up with it is very difficult. The marine heat waves in Tamil Nadu state, this marine heat waves is declared as a disaster. Like that, ocean is also alarmingly that is heated up, and we are losing the natural habitat. It is once natural habitat loss means that is restoring is very difficult. However, we have ministry has asked to do capacity building also, and we are in the process of when we are doing outreach activities, students, school children, college students, and then community, we are involving them, and it is the urgent need. We have to restore the habitats, the mangroves and coral reef, like that. By doing so, we can, to some extent, we can cope up with the marine heat waves. That is my thoughts.
thank you so much for taking us over all the steps that we've taken so far. Since we're already out of time, I would also request Mr. Vishal Pathak to perhaps give us a perspective on AIDMI and the way forward from here.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening. Due to some health issues in the family, Mihir Bhai needs to travel urgently and conveyed his apology, and he asked me to join the webinar from AIDMI side. This roundtable really deepen our collective understanding of how rising temperature are reshaping disaster risk across coastal region in South Asia. This discussion confirms what many of the ground already know: extreme heat is no longer an inland issue. It is now a coastal emergency. Together, this conversation points to one clear conclusion: we urgently need integrated and community-driven action across South Asia coastlines. Based on the insights shared today during the discussion and in the special issue of SouthAsiaDisasters.net, we would like to outline 5 priority actions that we can shape the way ahead. First, we must recognize extreme heat as a coastal hazard. It must be formally included in coastal disaster management plan across the region, not just as an afterthought, but as a standalone and compounding risk that affects shelter, early warning, water system, health services, and livelihood. Thank you, Tahir Bhai, for highlighting this important aspect in the beginning. Second, we must advance gender responsive adaptation, as highlighted by Professor Ishrat Ji and others. Women and children bear the heaviest burden during heat waves, from walking longer distance for water still, to living in heat trapping housing, to managing health crisis without adequate support. Any serious adaptation strategy must center its needs, leadership, and lived experience. Third, we must support youth and community innovation. Thank you, Krishna Veniji, for highlighting and taking interns. They are ultimate our future leaders. From clay-based evaporative coolers to mangrove-based microclimates and mobile heat alerts, youth are already experimenting with solutions. These efforts must be scaled not only with funding, but with recognition and inclusion in policy. Fourth, we must strengthen regional collaborations, particularly around ocean science and marine heat waves. As water warm, fisheries collapse, coral reefs bleach, and coastal biodiversity erodes. Catherine, thank you so much for covering this aspect in detail and also the sharing the framework. We need a South Asia-wide platform to monitor ocean temperature, share marine data, and co-develop early warning systems that cross border and sectors. Thank you, Dr. Krishna Veniji, for cover this crucial area. And fifth, we must promote climate justice in adaptation finance. The frontline coastal population of South Asia, though least responsible for global emissions, are bearing the worst impact. Mechanisms like loss and damage fund must ensure that these communities receive the resources they need to survive and adapt with dignity. In the months ahead, AIDMI plans to scale its community engagement action in coastal states through partnership with government and civil society coalition, integration with anticipatory actions framework already shared, and also we are going to furthermore focusing on capacity building of local actors for decentralized heat planning. Let us remember, the heat is rising, the ocean are warming, and the time for half measure is behind us. It is now time to cool one shoreline at a time, together and with justice. Thank you so much. Really very interesting to listen all the speakers and presenters, and also interesting question. Pardon, apology for not covering all the questions, but we will get back. Over to Spandan. Thank you.
Thank you so much for summarizing everything so well. I would just like to take 2 more minutes and thank everybody who was able to make it. First, thank you to all the participants who have given their time and questions to engage with every one of the speakers. Then I would also like to thank all the speakers who took their time and shared their research with us. All of this research has been really helpful in first paving the way for environmentally just society, and also second, it has the potential to give more ideas that can be worked on for future projects and collaborations. I would also like to thank the Coastal Development and Planning Center, uh, with whose support this event was made possible. Uh, all of this information is available on the AIDMI website and the southasiandisasters.net issue, which has all of this research in further detail. So I would also request everybody to take a look at that. Thank you all for this wonderful evening, and I wish you all the best for the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much from Bangladesh. I'm Ishwar Shamim. Thank you. Hope we can have more virtual round tables in future. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Someone is missing from the meeting is who has been working behind the curtain all along is Manish. Manish, what's his full name? Yeah, thanks very much, Manish, for your active cooperation in producing this particular issue of DisasterNet. And we also missed Mihir Bhattji. We know that for some important task he had to be away, but we hope to meet him again. But thanks from my side also to the wonderful presentation by Ishrat Shamim, Dr. Catherine, and Dr. Krishnavani. So your presentation has really made this afternoon for us very, very productive, very valuable to us. We wish you all very good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I thank the organizers for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So bye-bye from my side.
Thank you, Tahir Bhai. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks. Thanks, Vishal Bhai. Yeah, sure.
Silently একটা বলবেন করেন either openly or
Thank you, Ramona, for joining.
Shall we end the meeting?
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Traor. Thank you for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.